It's 10 a.m. in Lagos, Nigeria, and once it's 10 a.m. in Lagos, Nigeria, it's time for 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations, and you only get that from Business Morning on Channels TV. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Well, let's get right into it now. Oil price is traded flat on Tuesday as worries that further possible U.S. interest rate hikes could pull down demand were countered by concerns of a tropical storm off the U.S. Gulf Coast may impact supply. Brent crude was flat at $84.42 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude shed 2 cents to $80.08. Investors await key U.S. economic data later this week that will help determine the path of interest rates this year and next. China's economic recovery has faltered on the back of worsening property slump, weak consumer spending, and tumbling credit growth, prompting Beijing to cut key policy rates to shore up activity in the world's second largest economy and oil consumer. Meanwhile, tropical storm Idalia lashed western Cuba on Monday and was almost a hurricane as it headed toward Florida. The storm is likely to cause power outages and impact crude production on the eastern side of the United States Gulf Coast. This week, the focus will be on U.S. Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index report that is due on Thursday, and then the August non-farm payrolls data that is due on Friday. Edible oil now. Malaysian palm oil futures recovered on Tuesday, helped by a weaker ringgit and stronger palm oil on the daily and commodity exchange, although imminent oversupply concerns capped gains. The benchmark palm oil contract for November delivery on the Bursa Malaysia Derivatives Exchange strengthened 30 ringgit to 3,940 ringgit. That's about $847. While the Malaysian ringgit, which is the palm's currency of trade, last firm 0.11% against the dollar, but remained at a near 2-month low. A weaker ringgit makes palm oil more attractive for foreign currency holders. Dalian's most active soy oil contract was flat, while its palm oil contract climbed 0.5%. Soy oil prices on the Chicago Board of Trade dipped 0.1%. India is poised for its lowest monsoon rains in 8 years, with the El Nino weather pattern seeing crippling September precipitation after an August that's on track to be the driest in more than a century. 2 weather department officials have confirmed this. In the grains market now, Chicago soybean and corn prices dropped on Tuesday after U.S. government data showed that a decline in crops due to hot and dry weather was not as severe as many analysts had expected. Wheat inched higher, although sluggish demand for U.S. supplies and competition from cheap Russian grain limited the upside in prices. The U.S. Department of Agriculture in the weekly crop progress report on Monday rated 58% of the soybean crop as good to excellent, down a percent point from 59% last week, according to surveyors and analysts. Also on that, we see that for corn, the USDA rated 56% of the crop as good to excellent, down 2 percentage points from 58% a week ago. The relatively modest drop in ratings eased fears about supply. The U.S. is the world's number 2 exporter of corn and soybeans after Brazil. However, soybeans are still up nearly 9% from a low earlier this month after sweltering hit in U.S. Midwest stressed the crops. In Nigeria, the country's economic growth and development can be tied to the essential role of financial services industry. That's according to the president and chairman of Council of Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, Dr. Ken Okpara. Dr. Okpara was speaking with newsmen at a World Press Conference ahead of the 16th Annual Banking and Finance Conference. Meanwhile, chairman of the organizing committee for the conference, Bukola Smith, reveals that the objective of the gathering is to, among others, provide a veritable platform for subject experts and industry stakeholders to drive conversations and unanimously design a clear roadmap towards repositioning the financial services industry for economic growth and stability.
the annual Banking and Finance Conference with the theme Nigerians' Economic Growth and Transformation, the role of the financial services sector. It's the biggest gathering in Africa, or the conference of people. It's basically going to be a platform where we'll have experts speak to us on different areas of banking and finance, and of course the economy. Obviously, we'll also have people talking about how to unlock opportunities in among SMEs, the payment platform, infrastructure. Of course, we also talk about the cyber crime as it relates to payment system as much as possible. It promises to be the biggest gathering. Over 10,000 people will be in attendance, physically and also in virtually.
Given the fact that a new government has just taken over, we feel that it's important that we talk about the economy and steps that need to be taken for us to experience the growth that we actually need. Looking at the sub-teams, we have sub-teams on the monetary policy, we have sub-teams on foreign exchange, we have sub-teams on financial inclusion, amongst other things. And these are all things that are required for our economy at this particular point in time.
You're welcome back. Well, ahead of that meeting, and we know how the financial institutions they gained following the GDP numbers that we saw for the second quarter. So obviously they do have a role to play in economic development. But one thing that is like in the news, the economic news these days in Nigeria is gas. And good enough, the president has, for the first time in the history of the country, created a ministry. There's a Minister of State. Mr. Ekwerikwe is the Minister of State for gas in Nigeria. We haven't had that before, so we expect more focus, especially at a time when petrol has become really expensive and everyone is looking for alternative. The talk of clean energy as an alternative on the one hand, and the search for cheaper source of energy on the other hand. Well, we have joining us in the studio to talk about this Mr. Oladapo Olatubosun. He's the President, Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers in Nigeria, and he's here in the studio. Good morning, Mr. Olatubosun. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so congratulations. You now have a Minister of State that his focus is on gas. I guess that makes your association or your members excited.
Yeah, it's good for the country. It's a welcome development, though it's not the first time we are having a minister designated for gas and energy. We had similar thing during the era of late President Umaru Yar'Adua, and this one is also a welcome development. It shows the concern and the kind of belief the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has in gas as a way of solving Nigerian problem.
So do you think gas can solve Nigeria's problem? How do you expect the President to act?
Yeah, currently now one of the challenges Nigeria is facing is about cash flow. We are heavily in debt to the other nations of the world. We have a lot of aspirations where we want to go in terms of creating employment, infrastructural development. All this could be done by having resources without going and borrow. We have huge development of gas in this country, very huge. We are about 9th in the whole world, but the very part of it is being tapped. So there's an aspect where we can make a lot of revenue. And I think that's the vision of the President by saying, okay, let me have a minister who will be focusing on exploration of all this gas, channeling the gas, and all the investment we are doing on pipeline will not be meaningful by the time you are able to generate huge resources that can be transformed into infrastructural development for the country. I think that's the vision of the President, if I guess right.
You should. You are in the industry, so I mean, we should get information from you now. Just to clarify, there are different types of gas.
Yes.
There's a natural gas, liquefied natural gas. You are for the petroleum. What is used for what? You know, we're now talking of alternative for petrol, you know, for cars. We have, of course, our cooking gas. We have the one that we could use to generate electricity, which some people are already, is it one and the same? We say we are rich in gas. We know there's need to process it just as we do crude and all of that. Help us to understand the connection.
Okay, I will do to the best of my ability as a businessman, not as a chemist. Gas and a ferrous form. We are in this room because there's gas here. We are able to breathe in oxygen. But when I talk of natural gas, we are talking of natural gas that's actually being used to transform some ferrous use. All gases are in the family of natural gas. The chemists will call it butane family. You have the butane, methane, and all those kind of chemical jargons. But the most relevant is that the one that is used domestically, the one that is used for industry. When you are talking domestic use gas, they are talking of LPG, liquefied petroleum gas. That's the one using for cooking, that's commonly called cooking gas. The industrial gases are numerous. We have the methane, we have the propane, we have the nitrogen, and several. They are using for various types. You can imagine all this visiting to the moon. There's something propelling to them. Their gas are involved, a lot of gas. Manufacturing of weapons and so many things. You need gas. And the kind of, you say, energy, that's the major focus. The energy you need, thermal energy. We have a lot of generating plants in Nigeria today that relies on gas. And that's where we have CNG. CNG is a special type of gas because of the pressure, the high pressure nature of gas.
So I mean, so we don't get too academic, you know. We talk about gas flaring in Nigeria.
Right.
Do we have the gas to use for this thing? Is it just the processing, you know, to make it petroleum, to keep it natural for energy or for cars and generators? Is that where the difference is? Do we have it in Nigeria?
We have gas in our border, but the problem we have is the exploration rate is very low, abysmally low.
Is it exploration or is it the processing?
Both exploration and processing are interwoven.
Okay.
Because you can't, you exploit and you process to come to the native form. So if you exploit and you don't process, it can't be useful. So we have abundant deposit of gas right in the soil and undersea. But when we exploit and we process them, it comes to a usable form. And that's the challenge and what is the opportunity everybody has seen. All Nigerians are aware that we have huge deposits of gas, which we can make more money than what we've made from petroleum, the crude oil.
From crude oil.
Before you get to where crude oil is, under the soil, you meet gas on the way. What do? We fly it away because we don't have infrastructure to convert it into a usable form. And this thing we are flying away is billions of dollars that we are burning. And everybody has come to see that, no, you don't need to burn this. Conserve it into where it could be turned to cash. And that is the focus of having a ministry who will be dedicated to this, tapping the opportunity that we have in transforming this deposit into raw cash that will help us to offset our debts, help us to source money to the infrastructure development, and all the rest. But importantly, we must talk about domestic need. And that is where it is important to call attention of the new minister to it. Yes, we have gas. Our focus is to generate revenue, but we must not forget to develop domestic need. Otherwise, we come back to the problem we are having with the petroleum, the crude oil, where we just exploiting and selling. Very soon now, the pipelines are laying. We'll be selling gas to Europe and other developed world where they actually need it. But if we neglect domestic need, we run into another problem.
Yeah. And thank you for the correction earlier that we've had a minister of gas before now. If you could compare or maybe get some lessons, you know, from that former minister, you know, for this Mr. Ikperekpe now who's here as the Minister of Gas, where would you say he should start from? What area should or are the challenges different when you compare that terrain and now?
Yeah, it will be very unfair to do any comparison now. The first time we had a Minister for Gas, that administration was short-lived because of the sickness of the president then and the eventual death of the president. So it's very unfair. There are a lot of challenges they have now. This time around, I pray this regime will not be short-lived, and God will give them the whole way out to see Nigeria through. It's in a long time we can now be comparing. But in terms of focus and expectation, you can be talking what are the expectations before the new regime. Now, the expectations is high, awareness is high, all Nigerians are getting to be aware now. And that's why we are discussing here. Years back, it's never been a point of discussion. What we discuss about crude oil. But now people realize we need gas. So how do we use gas to meet thermal energy, to produce electricity for us? How do we meet gas to make sure that we are able to generate revenue? How do we meet the short supply? Because in the country today, we have short supply of gas, particularly the liquefied petroleum gas, which is commonly used. Our usage level is abysmally low when we compare to other countries of the world. Currently now, we consume average about 900 to less than 1 million tons per year, which is ridiculously low when we look at our population. Why is it low?
So where do you think the minister, it's a whole lot.
It's a lot.
And the Minister of Economy yesterday, Mr. Waledu, had said that we're not going borrowing. You also said it. I think you've already
you don't
mentioned.
need to go borrow.
So, but we know these things are infrastructural issue that needed a huge funding. So where does that leave the Minister of State for Gas? Where can he start from?
Okay. Where he will start from, he will start from the mandate given by his principal. It's just like a football match. When you watch match at home, you don't know the mandate given by the coach at the dressing room.
Shouldn't the mandates of the principal, which is the president, be the needs of Nigerians?
Exactly. That's now what is
so what do we
what
need?
Is not the need of Nigerian from the president. The need of Nigerian from the president is what will drive his homework. He can't go outside the mandate given by his principal.
So what are our needs?
And our need is, number one, we are all yearning for infrastructure development. We are yearning for affordability of this product. We produce gas, we have it, we must be able to access it. Nigeria, now 20% of Nigeria are accessible to LPG, cooking gas, which is ridiculously low. If you have a population of 230 million, if 90% of our population will embrace gas, then we are going to have a problem of supply. Already there's a supply issue. So that's the challenge for the minister now. Thinking as you are widening the usage of gas, making gas a decade of gas, you should be thinking of how to meet supplies. Both short term and a long term. And that is why investor has to be encouraged to come here for exploration. If we have 2 or 3 of NLNG type of industry in Nigeria, it goes a long way. NLNG is 30 years old. We have not gotten a replica of that, the same size, the same structure. And the question is, why is NLNG working? NLNG is working because the ownership structure helped them. It's not solely owned by federal government of Nigeria, it's owned by other investors. So we need similar big size plant like that, about 2 of it. That will help us in exploration, it will help us in revenue generation, it will help us in job creation, it will help us in power generation, and solve a lot of problems.
But one of the aim of your association is to attract investment into the gas industry. So it's also your responsibility as an association.
No, my association is an indigenous association. It's to encourage creating employment and ease distribution of gas. We ease distribution of gas, and that's what we saw. Make gas available, all nooks and crannies of Nigeria. We've done that over the year. We've created awareness. Now the awareness we've created, now the problem we are having is shortage in supply and affordability. A lot of Nigerians cannot afford what price of gas is today. How many Nigerians can cook just a cup of beans for 800 naira? So the problem and the challenge before the new minister is how to improve supply. You need to improve supply both on the short and the long run. How does he do it on the short run? Because if it just gas is not what just go and quickly bring. You need to process it. If everybody has to embrace gas, with the little supply we have in Nigeria, now it's about 750 metric tons per annum, may not be enough for a population of 230. But how do you meet on the short run? Number one, meet with the producers. Let them know what they need in terms of infrastructure, how you can partner with them. And do a moral suasion on them so that they won't make the price too high. Profiteering shouldn't be the order of the day, but meeting the need of people. And that is area where there's a kind of collaboration between his ministry and other ministries. So it's give and take. How we come and assist you in getting infrastructure development. You also need to assist Nigerians in making this available for them at a reasonable price without regulating it. But it's a situation persuading them. Like give you tax holiday. When I give you tax holiday, what government is expecting you that you should also pass it on to the last consumer in terms of making it available for them at a reasonable price. So if the price is too high, not all Nigerians can afford it. That's one challenge. Then the second challenge, other gases we have, how do we make it available to all the electric generating companies at an agreeable rate and a steady supply, so that there will be steady supply of power in Nigeria? We can generate a lot of power from energy. We are talking about cars converting into gas now through the use of CNG. I'm happy that the government is partnering with NNPC to make that distribution and creating some of filling stations around the country. Yeah, that's a development. But when we are doing that, we must think about supply. Supply is important. That is where we are with the petroleum products. We created the awareness, but the supply is short there because the refineries were not working and we hadn't envisaging that from years back. And that's why we are. So I don't want us to run into the same problem with gas. The minister has a task to make sure that he has an immediate plan and a long-term plan. A long-term plan where you need to encourage investors to come, how you can partner with them, having a very holistic and encompassing structure that will make those implants and structure lasting and strong as NLNG. Because the ownership structure actually help NLNG to survive to today. They've been necessary for over 30 years. So we need similar structure and a big size of that to come into LPG, more exploit the gas and transplant it to Naira to Nigeria, create employment, make it available. They're meeting the supply gap. If the supply gap is not met and we create awareness, we end up importing and we are throwing away foreign exchange again.
Do we lack skills, human resources?
I don't want to say we lack skills. Nigerians are all over the world doing wonderfully well.
Because we do have the natural resources.
We have the natural resources. What we need, what we lack is what we are getting to. We are getting to where we lack leadership. But thank God we are having direction now. We are having direction now. What we lacked before is leadership. But now there's a lead direction. Somebody has shown interest that I believe in this. We can do. Let's give them a trial. Let's see what they can do.
I wonder
the step they are taking, I believe their solution is quite...
I wonder if, because a lot of time the private sector does complain that there's really you don't have enough interaction between the public and the private sector. And even when you do, the suggestions, the expert advice that comes from the industry players don't get implemented.
No, it depends. It depends on who is the pilot. Everybody has his own style. The most important, the style that work for you may not work for me. You can never run a public office without being a good listener. Because the ultimate goal is to satisfy the public. You need to listen to them. So any policy maker or policy implementer should be a good listener, know the direction to go. But however, at the same time, you cannot please everybody. So you need to have your focus and your agenda must drive you to get your results. So it should carry everybody along. The new minister needs to work with other ministries to be successful, especially Ministry of Works, because he needs to entice players with infrastructures. And you know, he will not go and construct road. It's Minister for Gas. But Minister of Works, he needs the presidential backing. Had the feeling, okay, can you see this? Let's get this. And when you talk about industrial development, Minister of Industry and Commerce, because investors come in, they need good environment, they need a lot of encouragement to come in, they need assurance. The justice and the judiciary also have, so it's all encompassing.
Yeah, well, that's why we have, thank God, we now have a coordinating minister.
Exactly.
So we hope that Mr. Wale will be able to,
I think this team are they are promising. I can see the bundle of talent within them. If Nigerians will allow them, I think we are going.
I'm sure Nigerians will allow them. Nigerians cannot stop the ministers.
I think we are.
Just a sentence before we go. Your association warned us of a hike in cooking gas. I'm a woman. I mean, so I buy cooking gas. So it's my first. It is a big deal for me. You know, but even the other time when we learned that cooking gas was going to drop to 4,000. I didn't see it. And now you have told us again. I'm sure it's already up by now. Yeah, it's up. Sorry about that, but it's the truth that has to be told. If that time we did not call attention of Nigerians to the price is going to go up, they will suddenly get to the plant and the price will go up and they started fighting people. That you people have started again. Knowing fully that it's not their fault. So we need to create that awareness. What we are praying for is stability. The exchange issue is still an issue there. And when we have a small gap in supply, then the people that are producing here are taking advantage of that. And before I go, there's another thing minister has to work on. The situation where the gas in Nigeria are being denominated in foreign currency, it will never go well. It doesn't work well for the common man. If we have our templates in dollar, then we be crying every now and then. Let what we produce here be and we work on a price template denominated in Naira. It will make life much more easier. We are still producing 750 metric tons
And it must reflect in the market that a lot is being produced in this Nigeria. Everything should not be priced as if they were being imported. And I think the minister needs to sit down and then talk to people for him to have good success on that area.
All right, thank you so much for that. We do hope that the minister is listening and will implement this. The issue of FX obviously is not new. When we spoke to the Blue Economy the other time, the issue of FX also, and local services and goods being priced in foreign currency also. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time this morning. Mr. Oladepo Olatobosun, President of Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers in Nigeria. Thank you. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll certainly talk more about this gas in the commodities segment. That's just after this break.
Clearly, the federal government is not in a position to borrow at this time. Rather, the emphasis has to be on creating a stable macroeconomic environment, stable inflation, stable exchange rate, and an environment within which people can come and invest, and thereby increase production and further grow the economy, improve, create jobs, and reduce poverty. So the aim of all the reforms at this time is not to is to focus on what we call equity, to focus on investment, to attract investment by Nigerians, investment by foreign direct investors, and even investment by portfolio investors that want to invest in the financial aspects of the Nigerian economy, such as the stock market, such as the bond market.
It's commodities time now. We have with us Dumebi Oluwole, senior analyst of financial derivatives company. Dumebi, good to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, Ine.
Yeah, so we see, okay, we just talked about gas. It's one of your commodities of interest.
Yes.
I know the cooking gas will also be a major interest to you, personally.
Of course.
But we do know that Australia has a hand. I do know as of yesterday, gas price in Europe had gone up about 400 euro from about 300 that is normally at, because of the union strike in Australia and all of that.
Yes. So Australia is one of the top oil producing and exporting countries, and due to the sanctions on Russia, Europe started leveraging more on Australian gas, and also trying to leverage gas production from other African countries. I remember like earlier in 2022, they reached out to Nigeria and a host of other African countries producing LNG, just so they're able to diversify their gas sources, gas supplying countries. So, but right now with the strike action, industrial strike action on Chevron, which is a major gas producing company in Australia that accounts for almost 20% of the gas that Australia supplies to other European countries. This is, having a huge impact on that. So we're seeing that there's somewhat a scramble going on. But
Is the strike on? Have they started the strike?
Well, they're about to start. They had already
because they had said that yesterday. They were having a meeting.
Exactly. So they had issued the industrial action over for about 20 issues that they needed Chevron to address.
And I think top on that is pay.
Exactly.
The issue of inflation and all of that.
Exactly. So increasing their wage, making working conditions better. So those are the main issues. The industrial strike action is trying to cover, and they're threatening like stopping work, not coming to work. And it's not only the LNG workers now. So all the other unions for like maritime as well are also involved oil. So it's a really big issue.
They're going to lose billions of dollars.
Exactly. And this is why most analysts still think that there might be some quick resolve towards this, because right now a lot is at stake. It's not just Australia producing LNG and supplying gas to it.
And Russia is not there to give
exactly.
the buffer that it would have.
Exactly. So there's really little alternative for Europe right now. So I'm pretty sure.
Is this affecting us in Nigeria?
Well, we haven't really seen that happen yet, but the thing is, once global prices of LNG increase, because that market is quite deregulated for Nigeria, we will see the ripple effect in the domestic economy through LPG prices, that's cooking gas. And over time, we had seen that cooking gas prices are actually reduced, but then picked back up again. And we could see that, that price increase be sustained simply because global LNG prices are higher now.
Yeah, well, now we have a Minister of State for Gas, so perhaps he can help push for the infrastructure, because this would have been a good time for Nigeria to earn some FX.
Of course. But we all know the issues that are currently affecting Nigeria's oil production and LNG production, because most of the gas that Nigeria has associated gas, so it comes out together with crude oil. So if we have crude oil production issues, those issues would definitely spill over into our gas production issues. And there's still the issue of gas flaring coming up and all of that. So those issues right there will continue to affect our LNG production domestically. Yeah.
And oil too has its own issues. I know Jerome Powell had said that they're going to keep hiking, and since then we haven't heard anything different. And then the issue with China is still there. Their real estate, their property crisis. I mean, I thought we had solved that, and then suddenly it just came up like that, and demand has been affected in spite of the rate cuts that they have had. I think they've had 2 in how many months? But in spite of that, things are still looking bad.
So the thing is, when a asset bubble like that happens, there's almost any little thing could trigger a rebound in that crisis. So even though there was some like a temporary relief earlier in the year with the property crisis, the moment the deflation issues came up, the moment weak demand started hitting China, we saw all of that happen again, and the property crisis, it just restarted. The engine was kicked back on, and we're seeing that have a significant impact on the Chinese economy. So the reason why the conversation around China is really much is simply because of how much they contribute to global demand, how much they contribute to global supply, and how much they contribute to global trade. So with significant or with crucial commodities like crude oil and even grains, we're seeing that the price of these commodities are, increasing or highly reducing. Exactly. So, and we'll continue to see this dynamic play out, especially because of what's happening in China. This, apart from the property crisis, a significant thing that is really the markets are really looking out for is China's deflation. So in periods of deflation, it almost sounds like good news for
because you say you're fighting inflation by hiking interest rates.
Exactly. So now you're having to, and in periods of deflation, it's almost like the value of your income is a lot more because inflation is significantly down. But the downside to that, it affects the supply side of the economy, and the supply side of the economy is what actually engineers the demand side of the economy.
I think economics is a complicated subject.
Exactly.
Because you're fighting inflation, now it's deflation, and you are still not happy because you don't have enough economic activities
going on. Exactly. And so, the issue is China is a very productive economy. So a dent on productivity would definitely cause the economy to slow down. China is a manufacturing hub and also a consumption hub, but the manufacturing, the goods that the manufacturers produce are the things that, connect towards the consumption part of the economy, because if there's nothing to buy, your demand is definitely not going to be there. So supply is a huge engine, especially for China's economy. And the fact that the productivity side of the economy is what the deflation is actually affecting, then we're seeing that having a ripple effect. So the Chinese government is not only trying to stimulate consumer demand now, because during periods of deflation, you see that because your money has a lot more value, people, especially in advanced economies, people will tend to want to keep that value up. So what you do is, what the theory behind it is that you find that people would like to save more or invest because they believe, they expect that the value of the money would keep increasing. So there's that consumer psychology. I think we call it inflation psychology now. So there's that psychology playing out there from the consumer side. But the flip side is that businesses would now, to service the loans that they've used to kick off their business, it becomes more difficult simply because the value of the local currency has increased. So there's that time value of money coming into play there. And that's exactly what we're seeing with the property crisis as well. These companies have taken up loans that they're not able to service now, so they're in debt, and that debt is forcing the property market to just, and then demand is also low simply because people believe that prices, it's a huge cycle going on. Exactly. And you know how China is very significant to the global economy, even for consumer goods like personal care items, household appliances. China accounts for about 10 to 15% of that consumption globally. Then you look at critical commodities like wheat, grain, and other grains, and oil as well. So you see how that will definitely play out into the global economy, and then filter into through higher prices.
All right, maybe thank you so much. It's one global village, so China might be far away, and the flight ticket might cost millions, but certainly what happens there. Thank you so much for your perspective this morning.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be back for the markets. It's time for the markets now. Will Ibon comes in, and I have to say, Will, that there was a prayer myself and Anne prayed on Friday during the stock market report, and God answered that prayer. The God of the NGX answered the prayer. So I mean, can you imagine? We have almost 1%.
Yes, it's the bullish sentiments, falling up from Friday. We did see that strong close for Friday, and also seeing this 0.9% yesterday, starting off the week on a very
miracle. This is our miracle.
We did see some sentiment, and we did see some drivers in the market.
It's a miracle.
And that's why the analyst is here. We're going to hear why the bullish sentiment is still on.
All right.
So we did see that bullish sentiment yesterday continuing from last week's, positive performance, bagging hunting in Boa Foods. Also, Dangote Sugar pushed the benchmark index higher yesterday, almost 1%, 0.9% there. Market cap crossed the 66,000 level. Now, yes, that's a strong one for the market, milestone that the market has hit now, and last since 2008. Now, also the market cap is at the 36 trillion naira mark now. Month to date and year to date gains now 2.8 and 29% each. That's fabulous. The market is really on a roll. Now, look at total volume traded yesterday. We did see a decline there, 311.11 million units traded yesterday, valued 3.92 billion naira, all transacted in over 7,000 deals. We look at the sectors. We did see banking down yesterday. The tier 1 banks really brought that one down. Consumer goods, we did see Boa Foods and Dangote Sugar propping that counter up. Industrial goods, we did see Lafarge doing its thing there. And insurance, Lasako was responsible for that drop. Oil and gas was unchanged from its opening levels on Friday, closing levels on Friday. So we did see that the market is really on a roll. Access Holdings topping trade yesterday. Most of the stocks were on full bid yesterday. We did see Transcore, Dangote Sugar, and Nascon on that full bid. But we're going to bring in Sadiq Safiri, who is a senior research analyst with Maritime Securities Limited. He's going to give us what's happening in the market and a breakdown of what to expect. Good morning, Sadiq. It's good to have you on the show.
Hi, good morning, Bill. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I was just talking about the stocks, some of the stocks being on full bid yesterday. Tell us what's pushing investors, what are investors seeing? We didn't know that merger between, with Nascon, Dangote Sugar, and Dangote Rice is coming on the play. But investors are not letting that rest, are they?
No, not at all. I mean, you've rightly mentioned the major drivers that we've seen, or that we also saw yesterday. We saw that buying activities on NASCON and Down Sugar following the report on their merger. We also saw buying activities on Boa Foods. We saw on Transcorp. So yeah, majorly these stickers have been like drivers for the consumer goods index. Year to date now we've seen the consumer goods index do like over 50%. Yeah. So the speculation that there would be an effective synergy between NASCON and Down Sugar to create the Down Foods, has actually increased investors' confidence and buying activities in these stickers. So yes, the NGX ASI saw the fruits of that, and it bear the 0.9% return that we saw yesterday.
Yeah, so year to date, it's 29%. Whoa, I must say, we're reaching for the stars here, Sadiq. Can the market sustain this bullish run?
So yes, I mean, I'm equally optimistic as you are that the market would maintain this positive sentiment. Although it is only rational for investors to, take profits at intervals. Yeah, we saw that 2 weeks ago when the market closed down. But again, that positive sentiment revived last week, and last week it closed 4 days out of 5 trading sessions, and this week it has already started on a positive note. So yes, cumulatively, investors are pretty much positive about the Nigerian market and the reforms of the new administration. They are also positive that these corporate institution, would sort of report higher earnings, which would be good for the growth prospect of these companies. Yeah, so these are major drivers that we would see to push the Nigerian equity markets this year. So we could just see the market sustain their positive sentiment. But again, as I said, there will be bucket of profit-taking activities at intervals. It's just rational for investors to take profit, especially when they enter at attractive entry prices.
Thank you so much, Sadiq Safiri, Senior Research Analyst with Maritime Securities Limited. We do hope the market closes in the green today. We look forward to that positive sentiment spilling into today. Thank you so much for sharing your insights on the program.
All right, thank you very much for having me today.
So we did see that, the NASD market, not so positive for the market, almost 1% down. As against what the NGX recorded yesterday, it's almost 1% down. So filter in some of those prayers, let them go into the NASD as well.
I'll think about it. All right, we'll see at 1:30. So let's head straight to London now, where Juliana is back and standing by to give us, first of all, updates on that worrying situation at Bristol, the flight disruption there. Juliana, good morning. What's the updates with that?
There were some chaotic scenes at European holiday hotspots last night, according to eyewitnesses and according to some of the social media videos that I've seen. And this is because yesterday there was a 5-hour technical glitch across Britain. So not just British airport, Bristol Airport, unfortunately, but also Heathrow, which is Europe's busiest airport. Now, this morning, the National Air Traffic Services has confirmed that the technical glitch has been repaired, but unfortunately there is a huge backlog, and we know that yesterday was a very busy time for British holidaymakers to get home in time for their children to start school, but they were prevented from doing so because of this technical glitch. Now, the Transport Minister, Mark Harper, he's also released a statement today saying that passengers unfortunately will be facing significant disruption. There has also been a statement released by Heathrow saying something similar. In fact, they're telling people do not travel to any airport without checking with your airline. And we have seen that British Airways and EasyJet have also said there are going to be delays. Very little information about what caused that technical glitch yesterday, which prevented air traffic control from relaying information to pilots. So airlines were stranded. In fact, some airlines were stranded on the tarmac for up to 12 hours with children in it. You can imagine what that could have been like. So lots of people call up in this, including high-profile celebrities. Tens of thousands of Britons trying to get home have been unable to do so. So if you are watching at the moment and you are due to fly to or from Britain today, it is important, according to the Transport Minister and bosses at the biggest airports in the United Kingdom, just check before you travel so you don't face or get caught up in this significant disruption.
Yeah, another good one. Obviously, everybody needs to check. And then for the first time in 5 years, the British Foreign Secretary will be going to China. China seems to be in the news so much. What are the expectations? What's the deal?
Yeah, this is a pretty significant story. As you said, James Cleverly, the foreign minister, just wrapping up a trip to the Philippines. It was in Nigeria a couple of weeks ago. He is going to be traveling to Beijing tomorrow to meet with his counterpart, Wang Yi, as well as the Chinese vice president, Han Zheng. And really, it is to try and solidify communications, which we know have been dented over the past few years, despite the fact that the West are very cautious about China. It is really important for Britain's national security for them to maintain some of those channels of communication. So they will be having a pretty robust meeting tomorrow. According to the statement that was released by Downing Street this morning, areas of the discussion will focus on cybersecurity, international security, and human rights, with an emphasis on what's been happening in Xinjiang and Tibet and other areas of China, which have been a cause of alarm to Britain, as well, of course, the Hong Kong national trial and security breaches that Britain believe are taking place in Hong Kong. So that's all we know for now. Is there going to be a joint press conference? We have to wait and see. What is the reception going to be like towards James Cleverly from his counterpart? Again, that's what we'll have to wait and see. But a pretty important meeting. And as you said, it's been 5 years since the Foreign Secretary has been in Beijing, so there's lots of expectations around that discourse.
Yeah, I've been a busy time for Mr. Cleverly there. But I will certainly follow up with the details eventually. Thank you so much, Juliana. I will talk to you at 1:30. All right, now let's get back to the market, crypto market. And guess who's back? After a month of lounging and having fun and doing what he wants to do with his time.
Exactly. I'm not even looking at the market. Let's not forget that.
I don't believe you.
Maybe I looked at it one time.
Oh.
And it's quite incredible. Last time I was here, Bitcoin was trading about 30 to 29,000.
And see what you've done.
But look at it now.
You actually moved the market positively, laddie.
Right.
We've done a lot of red.
Yeah.
You know, in your absence, we did a neutral for more than 2 weeks.
Green today.
So you're a market mover.
Fantastic. Market mover, Laddie Williams, right here. BTC there, $26,000. Ethereum also in the green, and we see all other major altcoins also in the green this morning after a lot of sell-offs saw over the weekend and yesterday. Let's look at the top cryptocurrencies we track. We see the market is in fear. Last time I was on the show, it was about greed and neutral, but now we're in fear. Back to fear, 39 points over 100, showing that investors are quite afraid right now in the market. Let's look at the top cryptocurrencies we track. At 8 a.m. this morning, Bitcoin was up 0.27%. Ethereum, $1,647. BNB, not been able to get back to that $300 level, 0.33% up. But XRP still holding that 50-cent level. Look at the top trades today. ASTR, 6 cents, 6.57%. Big gain there. AVAX there, that's up 4.11%, and we see Algorand 9 cents, 3.52%. So we're seeing some altcoins showing some promise in the market. Let's bring in Solomon Amunde now, our financial market analyst. Hello, Solomon. Great to have you. Good morning.
Morning, Laddie.
Yeah, so everyone's looking for that bottom in this market. We know investors always trying to get that perfect entry, but what is that perfect entry? It almost seems like a mirage sometimes. You get into the market, you don't know where it's going to go next. But looking at some big companies now, we see 1inch Investment Fund Wallet just bought about $10 million worth of Ethereum. Is that a sign that a bottom is in?
Yeah, basically for Ethereum, it's a sign that the bottom is in because for Ethereum, this year, Ethereum has been highly deflationary, which means that we are burning more Ethereum than we are minting more Ethereum. So obviously, Ethereum has a very, very huge upside and very great price protection. It will be very, very difficult to see the price of Ethereum go below 1,450. And looking at the 1inch Investment Wallet, so finding out that they also bought Ethereum at around 1,590 January this year, and they've sold last month and made good profits, it makes sense to say that they're actually swinging Ethereum, and this was a perfect entry for them.
Right, and I know Friend Tech, that's a decentralized platform that's been in news lately, and they're threatening to punish users if they use copycat apps. What does this say about decentralization if, the platform can actually go after users like this?
It's pretty bad and it's not fair, and they got quite negative remarks from the crypto community because most persons weren't impressed by their decision to punish users. But in all fairness, what they were trying to say is basically for those that would abandon the Friend Tech app and try to use other clones, they would actually lose their points that qualifies them for airdrop. So they say they will automatically lose the points that they've accumulated over time, and thus they won't qualify for airdrops. So it's kind of like seems fair for the loyal customers and the loyal users of the Friend.Tech app, but at the same time, it's not really fair looking at the general scope of things from the decentralized point of view. So I would say it's pretty harsh, very, very harsh, talking about competition. It's very, very harsh.
Right, that it's all still about decentralization and centralization. That argument, are there truly decentralized platforms? But looking at the week now, what are you seeing coming for price action?
Bitcoin is still defending the support at around $25,000, but at the same time, we've been unable to reclaim $27,400. So we've just been trading sideways, and I still believe we'll still trade sideways to the end of this week. But I'm really optimistic to see Bitcoin break down below $25,000, and so that we can achieve that final capitulation, which can give altcoins a moment to at least spring up and do about 20-30% returns. So in all fairness, I would say we'll trade sideways till the end of this week.
All right, Solomon sees sideways trading for Bitcoin. Thank you so much, Solomon Amunde, financial market analyst. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so yeah, that's how the market is looking, and we're seeing Solomon still expecting some, sideways movement for price action for Bitcoin.
I guess it's not just Solomon. Yeah. A lot of analysts expect that.
Everyone's bearish at this point.
Yeah, well, it's the reality.
Yeah.
All right, Laddie, thank you so much and welcome back. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
All right, so that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of this 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations. We'll have another one tomorrow. 1:30, Willie Bong will be back, but you can always watch Business Morning at any time on our YouTube channels, YouTube/channels web. You can watch it at any time, and the information will be good for you. I'm Ini John Mekwa. I'll see you tonight, 10 p.m. Stock Market Reports.